Okay, welcome back, everyone. Something different, but not really. Something basic. Um, Reason? I think it's something that we should all out there tend to take responsibility of. And I've kind of been a proponent of saying that for a long time. And what we have here is a cast partial denture, Kennedy Class 4, missing 1, 2 teeth. This is not my treatment plan. I mean, obviously there could be a flipper, there could be a like acrylic partial denture, it could be obviously a cast partial denture, which I'm doing, implants, but it seems like there's some periodontal involvement here, so implants is not an issue. Probably a transitional partial would probably be more prudent, but like I said, it's not my treatment plan. I'm just going to follow the instructions from the practitioner in this case. So we end up with this handy dandy alginate. Not the best, but I would say kind of what we see in industry standard. I've blocked it out for some aproning here from 4 to 5. So that would be 3/4 to 4/5. A couple embrasure clasps, and I'll plate everything. This will also eliminate the plating of any possibility of rotation. There's some creative cantilever fixed prosthodontics over here in 3/6, 3/7. 3/7 is a cantilever. 3/6 is a potato crown. I shouldn't say potato crown. It doesn't look good. But anyways, we're going to stick on the natural dentition and stay away from this stuff here. So something that you may do, you may not do. I do my own, not because I like it, not because I'm like a superhero, not because I'm like, oh, wow, look at me, because I know how. And I've worked places and owned places, so in laboratories. So I know what goes on in the cast partial denture department. And yes, you could send this off and magically something in chrome would appear for whatever, $150 or $200 Canadian or maybe offshore. But this one here, made in Canada and made by me, so no one else to complain about. So if you do your own, you might see something different here. So take it away. I'm going to use a lingual bar, even though it's aproning. This will kind of maintain thickness. These come in different profiles. And I use this profile from Vago. And no, they're not sponsoring the video. But I use this profile because it's versatile for a lingual bar and or the base of my apron plating, which will maintain my thickness and give me some strength. If I fall off the screen here a little bit, I apologize. But I think it's better if we can kind of keep it zoomed in. And I know we don't have like an hour to sit here and watch me talk about the cast partial denture design. So I'll endeavor to do this in 10 minutes. 10 minutes from now. So I've been kind of blabbing a little bit. So I'm going to get this in the position that I want it to be in. Now, you can take different cast partial denture courses. Do they seal it to the model? I'm one to say yes, because if there's any investment sneaking under this, that's not going to be good. Another thing I might do that someone else doesn't do, I actually use the pattern wax to seal it. So therefore, I'm only controlling one flow temperature of wax, not inlay wax, pattern wax, or if it's a plastic pattern. So I'm going to seal this down, this bar. There's my internal finishing line created by my blockout for that mesh retention. And I'll work my way over to this side here. Now this bar is a little bit thick for the apron, but I'm going to be reducing it ever so shortly. But this would be my first step. Whether you're doing digital partial denture design, where you're going to print the framework or cast, or you're doing SLM, you're doing sintered laser frameworks, you still need to start with this design. So if you're doing digital, obviously you lay down your splines and adjust your control points accordingly. But I'm going to do mine by hand. Back to the Denturist making their own frameworks. I don't know too many that do. But I think the worst thing is if you do ask someone to do it for you, at least design it. Because I worked in the framework department in like 1980. Never mind. 80 something. And if someone didn't design it, I designed it for me, not them, not the patient. And you can imagine at $150 a unit what the hourly salary is or wage is. for the technician. Not much. So it tends to be the basement feeder or bottom basement of the laboratory business. But really, one of the most rewarding and kind of fun. Naturally, anything if you're doing it repetitiously is not fun. But, for the 20 frameworks I might do a month, I'm going to do them myself. I don't need to do... I don't have not a lot of material outlay here, just wax pattern. I don't use a hydrocolloid. I use a silicone duplicating technique. Is it more expensive? Yes. But like I said, not many frameworks in a month. So maybe $10 per model, but the detail is way better. Way better. Investment I'm using, super fine. I've had this investment set under bar. Another maybe a little tip you can take steel. Everything you see here in this video is not mine anyways. I've taken it from someone that I've seen. Someone that I've worked with. Someone that I've taken a course with. Some video that I watched. Some magazine article that I read. I think, I'm just good at mimicking. I would take something. I'm like, oh, I'll try that. Well, that's working for me. Oh, that's not working for me. So I'm going to just flame this here a little bit on the top side here. So I'm blending the lingua bar into the apron at the base of the apron or plating or web bar or whatever you want to call it in whatever part of the world or country you're watching this from or continent. There's different terms, but basically I'm plating or I'm having metal contact at the lingual of first bicuspid, 3, 3, K9, 3, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5. With embrasure clasp on 4, 5, 4, 6, 3, 4, 3, 5. Not my favorite design there, 3, 4, 5, but there's not much else to do here. There's no room. There's no other space interocclusally. This was the recommendation from the DDS on this case. So I'm like, okay, I'll follow. But I designed it from whatever little information I got. But like I said, design your own. And for the 10 minutes of block out and wax up, you can make your own too. I mean, if you're doing 20 frameworks, you could keep 50,000. If we talk dollars and cents, which seems to motivate a lot of people, we could keep that 50,000 some odd dollars in our offices rather than farming it out to those places. Downside, you can see from my lovely fingernails that I prepared a manicure for this video. That's the downside to trimming a lot of chrome. And I did a few today, so that's still leftovers and takes a while to get out. So I'm going to do my mesh lattice retention here in the anterior. Different shapes. Again, if you're doing digitally, you'll get different libraries. You can get thick, thin, round, square, diagonal, rope-like. There's so many different types of profiles. Fool around with the ones you like. I carry many for different scenarios or different situations. I'm going to fuse this. This would be the same procedure. Like I said, if I was doing digital, I would do the mesh retention or, how I'm going to adhere these teeth here to the anterior. I got guide plane, mesial of 3-2. And something you might not see on the videos, but I like to share. Why not? It's been many hours here today not talking to anyone in the laboratory. So I figured, I'll talk to someone, people out there. So I've got this now so far, and we can go to our clasp design. I'll start with the embrasure clasp. These come in different profiles as well. And I'm going to start with these ones here. I'm not going to seal down because I'm going to try to maintain the integrity of the profile if I can. If I don't like the one I've put on there, then I may take it off. I've got it blocked out. I've got it ledged. So I know the depth of the undercut that I'm going to be engaging on the mesial buckle of the 3/4 and the distal buckle of 3/5. It's roughly a 0.25 millimeter undercut that I've used with the gauge. And obviously that was done in the blockout stage prior to even this stage, obviously. And I've got the master model beside me if I can't visualize it exactly. So this is what I like to share. The human dental technician fumbling about with wax patterns, fumbling about trying to do it in a timely fashion, and as well in the neat fashion. Once you cast this in chrome, the last thing I want to do is spend 2 hours trimming, polishing, fitting, bending. Bending. Yeah, please, no bending. We don't want to like maximize the modulus of elasticity of the chromium cobalt. And then once we have ultimate fracture point, ultimate strength. So there's my embrasure clasp. Am I a fan of this embrasure clasp? No. It was rigid. It's rigid, unsightly. But I don't think we got much of a choice here in this design. We're going to come over here, get a one here on the distal of 6. And this is really the danger zone here, interproximal, that the casting laboratory doesn't go too low and then over adjust. And then this is a continuous fracture point. And then the patient comes back and says, I broke this clasp up. What can you do? And you're like, laser weld it or something. And laser welding is not cheap. It's not fast. And it's not guaranteed either. You'll probably break again. Depending how it's laser welded, if it's built up enough. So I've got enough room interocclusally here in the bite. So I'm not checking now in the wax up stage. I've got it ledged here so I don't go below the height of contour on the reciprocal arm and or the retentive arm. And again, the only part I'm sealing down here is the shoulder beside the rest, the shoulder of the clasp. This is really important to close down here, here, here. And then I have an amazing transition fit once this is trimmed. And then I'll go over with a fine wax instrument and demarcate this rest, which is not really a prepared rest. This is going to be more of an onlay rest. And it looks like it was very faintly prepared. I will seal embrasure clasp right up underneath. And on the other side, just in case I missed it, I'll seal underneath that one. So we've got our major connector, mesh retention, embrasure clasps on both sides. And then maybe here, the next step, never mind maybe, the next step, it would be our anterior finishing line. Now, if you had the setup, it would be great, like a diagnostic setup or a try-in. And then you could get your finishing line. This is where I think a lot of the casting laboratories miss the boat here because they're not really denture, let's say, technicians. So they leave a lot of room for the acrylic saddle. And they kind of sag it off. Now, this anterior section is difficult in the lower because the labiolingual width of the edentulous ridge is narrow, which doesn't leave a lot of, let's say, mechanical retention. I'm sealing my finishing line on the outside here on the join it to the bar and then fuse it in there and then maybe a little flame it, seal it together. So there I have my finishing line. I may reduce obviously this mesh retention but when I'm doing the setup, but what I'm saying is I don't have much room here for holes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll probably put some posts because we have also in the anterior small things. I've seen these things break off a lot in the anterior. We got like 12 millimeter anteriors. Before doing so, though, I'll go and I got a choice here. I can do stippling, which is easier to polish, or I can make it smooth. So I'm going to do a combination, and I'll put the stippling pattern. This is a 0.6 millimeters thick. You can get 0.5, 0.3, 0.6, 0.8, different thicknesses. You experiment. I'm thinking 0.6 would be something I would use most of the time. And I can use it for, that's 0.6 millimeters. So don't stretch it. Now you can see I just put wax up onto the anteriors. And then the thickness of this apron here will be 0.6, maybe even 0.5 by the time I've squeezed it, 0.1 millimeter. I'm going to use my scalpel, Bard Parker blade, whatever you want to call it, number 11. Some of you use a number 10. I think this is a number 11 I'll use. And keep it sharp. Try to keep your fingernails away from the pattern. I mean, there's instruments you can use. But I am a little cavalier, and I know where I'm going to trim and where I'm not. So, I've put my mesh retention on, my stippled pattern. Now, this is heating up the scalpel blade, and I'm going to fuse and cut the external finishing line at the same time, creating this undercut for acrylic underneath. And then if you look here, I fused the two together. Make sure everything is. Now, I'm going to seal this stippled pattern 0.6 to my wax up on all the edges. I can't have investment going underneath here. Terrible. And it's going to be highly polished around the border. So if you're thinking, oh man, he's just fusing the wax so smooth. That's going to be a smooth finish anyways. So I'm using pattern wax. It's the same temperature all the way around. Seal the top of the apron or the plating here. Okay, if you're a beginner, go a little thicker. Give yourself some room. Last thing you want to do is have perforations in your plate. This one seems to have dropped just slightly. Now, this is going to be smooth on the exterior side, but I might do that with a stone. There's different ways to do this. I could have put the stippling and the finishing line after, but I put the finishing line on first. Or my finishing line 22 gauge wax, and then the stippling on top, and I fuse the two together. You could add it after. I'm just going to thicken up the guide planes. Add some posts maybe in the front to increase mechanical retention for my fabulous 2 or 3 teeth I'm going to put up there. And then what I would do to do that was get my 22 gauge wax and then maybe twist it together. And then double it up. Give it some more retention there. There we go. Now, if you had a diagnostic setup, then this would be in the right position. I'm going to arrogantly assume where I'm going to place the teeth. There's going to be my central there. Small things. I see a lot of the casting libraries not going to do this unless you ask for it. Most people won't ask for it. It's easier not to do it. Yeah, I've got my lateral and I got my central. Let me just fuse it here at the bottom here. Ever so gently with wax. Get it in place. I'm thinking of emergence angle. Now I'm the setup technician where I'm going to put those two teeth. Yeah, okay, I lied on the 9-10 minutes. Double that. But if it's something interesting, stay with me. Now, under the magnification, which I'll do off screen, I'll go around and I'll make sure that there's no, I mean, it's easier to trim wax, right? As you can see here, the aprons I'm going to reduce. I'm going to demarcate these rests a little bit better, thin them out. If I've blobbed wax on there, check the shoulders of the clasps area. Check the apron is the most important here. I want this fitting awesome. And then reduce here a little bit. Now, let's look at one that's finished. It's the same thing here. We've got the plating. I use the bar. This one's necessary because of the mandibular tori. Same type of embrasure clasp. Not many choices on this side. I got a ring clasp here due to the angulation mesially of 7. So we're engaging the mesial buckle undercut. And then here we've got our roach clasp on the soon-to-be free end, most likely when this is gone. The roach clasp, which would be our one of our stress-breaking clasps for a free end. Now, you can see here I've serrated, maybe here in the metal, you can see I've serrated small little neck steps for more mechanical retention. Also have a finishing line here into my bar. I'm going to reduce it here to get my bicuspid in there. So I have a finishing line between the unpolished and the polished. Most casting laboratories will give you the whole thing polished. But really, I don't need that polished underneath there. It's going to be in acrylic. So I need that. Do I have another one here? There we go. So we have a maxillary free end here. There are stress-breaking roach clasp. And again, this part is where my flange is going to come down. This is all roughened, even serrated. I've got indirect retention here on 2, 3, and embrasure clasp here on 5 and 6. Another small tip here, I've put in a median suture line, kind of simulating some type of 3-dimension here underneath the pallet and continuing it into the framework. So the sensation of the glossus is there, that there is some deglutation, maxillary palate with food as the tongue goes up during swallowing. I mean, this is just kind of, let's say, next level crest partial dentures. To me it is, because I don't see that here in the North American market. I've seen this from my good friend Dimitri from Siberia. I've seen this from my good friend Heiko Wohlschlager from Bremen, Germany. I've seen this from my good friend Matthias in Munich. I've seen this from my good friend Armando in Tyrol or northern Italy. So I've seen these things from other people. I say, you know what? I don't see that where I am. I'm going to make that my own. I don't even see it in some textbooks. It's just kind of like you adopt it. Sometimes it comes out. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm going off topic. But we need to sprue this case, obviously. And now am I going to use centrifugal casting, pressure induction, centrifugal induction? So you have to decide. Here I'm going to use a number 8, or it's probably this 7 round. And I'm going to attach it to the thick part of the bar there. And then the base of the sprue will just be above the height of occlusion. There's a lot going on here. Whoa, especially when that falls down. There's a lot going on here. But put it in the comment section if you want to see more. I mean, there's obviously a ton of laboratories that do this for a living, but I don't see any of them sharing with what goes on in their place. So I thought I'd share. It's not a big deal if you've done it. Like I said, this could be some type of revenue generation of what's already going on in your laboratory and or denture clinic, that you can maintain this. I mean, really all that's needed here is a surveyor, wax patterns, and a vacuum mixer to vacuum mix the investment, silicone. Now, I use everything in a pressure pot, so I've blocked out under bar at least 20 for my refractory model. I'm going to also under bar or pressure, the investment will be. This just eliminates any bubbles. The detail is second to none. Now, I can now I've got this in the center of the model. This is my channelways of molten chromium cobalt. I'm going to use a pressure induction casting, which I think is the best way to go in casting. So if you're sending it out, ask those laboratories how they're doing yours. Make sure they're not putting any... there's the base of my sprue right there, just above the height of occlusion. Make sure they're not using any like old metal or quenching it, or some porosity stuff going on. We don't want that. I'm just looking for some sprues. Now there's different types of sprues. We can have this shallow one here. We've got this kind of deeper tapered one. Actually, pressure induction would be better in this one. I think if you're doing induction centrifugal, this one. So you decide which one you want to do. They both work. You can make your own sprue former if you wish, out of base plate wax. Oh, my favorite thing to do. Just kidding. Okay, I'm going to switch, I think, the last minute. I'm going to switch to this sprue just to kind of make it different. We can make it different as we go. It's all going to work. So, hear those together. I'm going to use some base plate wax, some pattern wax. Now, this is difficult because we've got the sprue wax, which is a different flow temperature. We've got the pattern wax. We've got my base plate wax. I want everything to join together. Don't use anything brittle like a beeswax, rosin wax. It'll break off, snap. We need to have some, give in the wax here. So I'm going to fuse my sprue here all the way around. Some of you that are like sprue crazy will say, oh my God, he's going to incorporate, turbulence in the casting. Okay. Well, I showed you the others too that I've trimmed the same way. They are absolutely impeccably perfect. I'm going to polish the high shine a little bit more in those. I'm going to seal this now to the base of my investment ring former. Different types, Denture, Bago, Nobilium, all the same thing. But this is the same in all procedures. Fuse the model to the plate. It's not going to lift, float, move in the under vibration or under pressure. And we can't have this change in a vertical position inside the muffle. And you can see here, it's about the perfect height within a mil. I'm going to fill it right to the top. Maximize that depth of the sprue former as much as possible. And then I'm going to seal this so no investment gets through. My ring. I've got it centered in my ring because, like I said, I'm going to use the induction method so I don't have to worry about some trailing edge in the centrifuge casting. Now, glamorous? No. Any secrets? No. Something different? Possibly. Will I do something different next one? Yes, probably just to break the monotony. Now, I may take this off video because to clean up my wax up because I can see where I've left a little bit unsightly rest position there. So, thanks again, and I'll try to keep it shorter next time. Good luck.